What's up, guys? Sean back with you guys, and I'm here to talk about taking the train. So I don't know if any of you guys take the train, but I started taking it back in February for work, and I take it every morning and every afternoon when I'm going and coming home from work. And some of the things I noticed about when people are sitting on the train and some of the things they do, I find very interesting. For example, I tend to find that women like to sit with other women. So women will try to find a seat next to another woman for the most part on the train. I'll notice them skip over multiple seats that have guys, and they'll find the one next to the woman and they'll sit there, of course, until the train gets too crowded, and then they have no other choice. I've also noticed something else that's really interesting. When I began taking the train in February, I started seeing familiar faces. And you see these faces sit in the same seats or the same cars every single week. But yet, I realized I don't really talk to these people. There's one guy particularly who I literally stand next to every single day. We go to the same spot on the platform when we wait for the train. And when the train comes in, we both get on, we go our separate ways, never spoke a word to each other. And it's interesting because think about work, right? When you go to work, you sit there and work with the same people every single day. So you start to talk to them. You get to know their names. You're doing the same thing as they are. Similar to taking the train. You're both taking the train from the same area. You would think people would talk, right? No. Literally, people's goal seems to be to avoid talking to the people next to them. Even when somebody sits down next to you on the train, it often happens to me on the way home because I'm the first stop. I'll be sitting there. Somebody will come sitting down, and they won't say hello or, how you doing or anything like that. And oftentimes when I say to them, oh, hi, how are you? They kind of just go, hi, and look down. People on the train seem so eager to not talk to somebody that they have a quiet car. So the first train is always the quiet car where people can go and not have anyone interrupt them with, talking or interaction or anything weird like that. Now, I'm never on the quiet car myself. However, I do find that most people don't talk on the train a lot at all. I mean, most people aren't talking to strangers. And then you've got the rarity, the person who comes in and just starts yapping away or whatever, and they want to just make friends with everybody. And that's very rare. Usually the train rides are pretty quiet. Most people have their headphones in, playing on their phones or whatever else. You know what really bugs me about taking the train? And I really can't stand these types of people. So if it's you need to stop doing this. If you take the train and you sit on the first seat when you get into the train, like you literally sit at the first seat and you don't move over to the second one if it's open, you're a problem. You know this train's going to fill up, and you know someone's going to need that seat. Why would you be an asshole and make somebody go up to you and say, excuse me, could you please slide down? Why don't you just sit in the furthest seat so that someone can plop down next to you? Same thing goes for people who sit at the furthest seat and then throw their purses or their book bags on the seat next to you. And you make people come up and say, oh, I'm sorry. Could you go ahead and move that so I can sit down? Same thing for you guys that sit in the three-seaters. And you sit in the three-seaters and you got one person who's already sitting all the way across. So you sit at the far end and you both put your bags in the middle. For what? You know someone's going to need that seat when you're on the 9 a.m. train or the 8 a.m. train. That's fine at 12 o'clock. You're probably not going to have anybody sitting there. But at 9 o'clock in the morning when you know better, why do you do it? Why? And the other type of person I have a problem with is the person who sits there and takes up more room than they should. They expand their legs or expand their arms. I mean, the train I get on every morning at it's about 6, 7 in the morning, right at the cusp of that. And it's insanely crowded. There's always every single seat taken. So by the time I get on the train, I'm able to get a seat. But then after later stops, there's always people standing usually. Now, I sat down one time, and I always have to sit next to somebody. I sat down next to this one kid who I can only assume was in maybe high school or college. He had a book bag, looked like it was somewhat of a uniform. And his legs were just spread. I mean, he was just leaned back and they were just out. And I barely had any room. So rather than be an adult and say, excuse me, could you please slide in or anything like that? I mean, I thought it was pretty clear you should slide in. So I kind of just slowly pushed my legs out. And we were having this little miniature battle, right? Where my leg is kind of pushing against his to move him back and get him away and out of my space. And he didn't say anything. He just slowly moved his leg back. And then eventually he did get back into his own space. But I shouldn't have to do those sort of things is what I'm saying. But my favorite thing about taking the train is probably when I'm coming home because I'm the first stop. So I get to sit on the right. And it's always like the lottery. Who's going to sit next to me? Is it going to be a creepy person? Is it going to be a beautiful woman? You never know, right? And so it's really exciting to me because it's like literally playing the lottery. I mean, you could get the worst hand or you could get the best hand. Normally it ends up just being an average hand where it's just somebody that's, neither a really hot girl or a really weird person. They're just average. There's nothing to them. They're just sitting there. But it's fun anyways because it's like gambling in a way. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. What do you guys think about taking the train? What are some things that irk you? Do you take the train every day? Do you see anything interesting on the train? I'm sure you guys have some interesting stories if you've taken it long enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.